Welcome into OutKick the show. I am your fearless leader, Clay Travis. I hope all of you had fantastic weekends. I was all over the place at the PBR on Friday. Professional bull riding in Nashville was awesome. Did that with Fox Nation. Saturday, Speaker of the Tennessee House, Cameron Sexton, had an awesome event out in Crossville, Tennessee that I was in and out for. Appreciate them hosting me there. And I spent the entire weekend, 6 hours on Saturday, 6 hours on Sunday, recording the audio of this entire book. I wrote every word. I now have read every word. So if you want to just listen to me, there's going to be about 8 hours, 10 hours, whatever the final tally ends up being, of me reading the entire book. You can go pre-order Balls, which will be out, and I got to tell you, it's good. Legitimately good. Fabulous, even, for those of you out there that are Clay and Buck listeners. I went through, I liked almost all of it. There wasn't very much I would change. I said one of the challenging things about reading your own book is as you're reading, you're like, oh, the next paragraph should say this, or that next argument should be this. And I'm not saying it's perfect, but most of the time when I was thinking, oh, what should come next is this, it did. All right, we got a lot. So go sign up for Balls. Help make it a #1 bestseller in America. That's the goal. We got a bunch to discuss. Ukraine and Trump, that is ongoing right now. Zelensky and Trump are both in the White House right now, all of the European leaders. I'll tell you my take on that with the understanding that there is still more to come there. But first, this news came out on Friday. We did not do a Friday show, as we typically do not do Fridays. But Michigan got their penalty from the NCAA. And I have to say, I told you so. I said there would not be a significant penalty. I said that Michigan was not going to give up their national title, and that's where we are. Michigan got a $20 million fine, and Jim Harbaugh, who is now coaching the LA Chargers, got a substantial penalty, but he's not coaching in college football anymore. And so, effectively, there is no punishment for cheating in college football. Every major football program in America has multiple donors that would gladly put $20 million on the table to once and for all guarantee a national title. I promise you Michigan has multiple rich donors that would pay $20 million to win a national title. I promise you, I promise you, I promise you. The NCAA is not going to punish major college football programs because the value of the major college football programs is too much. So this is one of the big challenges that I think is out there. If there is some form of cheating in an NIL era, everybody's going to call the NCAA's bluff. There isn't an ability to punish the cheating significantly enough to stop someone from cheating. Michigan feels like, hey, we got a hell of a deal. We got an undisputed national championship that will last forever. Yes, people out there are going to chirp, but the chirping fades, and ultimately all that is left is the record book, and the national title isn't being touched. I told you all this was going to happen. People have been arguing with me over this for years now. Basically, this is what I expected to see happen. There are no major punishments going forward, and Michigan is either going to win or they're not going to win going forward with Sharon Moore. It's not going to have anything at all to do with what happened with Jim Harbaugh. So let's put that off to the side. I do think it is just an expected outcome, and I think it would happen for any major program in America going forward. There is talk out there that they're still trying to figure out, there is a December 1 deadline to figure out the new college football playoff going forward. Right now, they have recalibrated how they're going to seed the 12 teams. That is an improvement this year over what we saw last year. So, for instance, you're not going to get an Arizona State or Boise State advancing automatically to the round of 8. The 4 best teams get byes, not the 4 teams that happen to be champions. That is an improvement. But floated from the Big Ten is the idea of a 28-team playoff. 28. This would have 7 automatic SEC bids, 7 automatic Big Ten bids, 5 automatic bids for the Big 12, and 5 automatic bids for the ACC. It would then, if my math is correct here, and I'm not always good at live math, that would leave 4 open spots, including a spot for a non-Power 5 conference team, potentially Notre Dame, and a couple of more at-large teams on top of that. The way that it would be played in this format would be 4 byes and then 12 games that would be played on conference championship weekend. You would then take a week for Army-Navy, and then you would play the next round of the tournament. So you would start off with 24 teams playing in the first round. Those 24 teams, 12 would advance. They would then be seeded with the 4 teams that got the automatic byes, and you would have a 16 to 8 to 4 to 2. It's a little bit complicated. You almost need the graphic out there for what this would look like, but 24 teams. What I like about it is I don't think there's a point in having conference championship games anymore. I have been arguing this for some time, that in an expanded playoff era, you end up with situations where Carson Beck gets, for instance, significantly injured in the SEC championship game, and Georgia doesn't really benefit hardly at all from winning the SEC championship. I bet if you ask Kirby Smart, hey, would you rather lose the SEC championship game going forward and have your quarterback, your stud quarterback, be healthy? I think he probably would say yeah. So there is no point in conference title games. And people out there who say, well, how do we know who the champion is? Have co-champs. Have tiebreakers to determine seeding. Who gets the bye? We had multiple champions in conferences for a long time. I don't see the point of conference championship games. I also like the idea that all 12 of those games would be taking place on campus. And so you would have 12 campus games, and then you would have 8 campus games before you got down to the final 8, where those games would go to neutral site locations, meaning, if I'm doing the math right, you would have 20 on-campus games, and then you would have only 4, 5, 6, 7 off-campus. Now, in my ideal world, everything would be on campus at the higher seed until you got to the championship game, like in the Super Bowl. What I think a lot of people are going to complain about is if you run the math on this, you end up with a lot of really mediocre teams in the playoff. Now, that happens in the NFL. Sometimes teams in the NFL get in with losing records. It happens in college basketball. I think the biggest issue with this would be the beginning of the playoff is far more interesting than the end. Does that grow a bigger audience? I don't know. To me, it would then be a little bit like the NCAA tournament, and you guys know what I'm talking about. If I told you, hey, you can watch the Final Four, or for that matter, the Elite Eight, or you can watch all of the games that you want on the opening Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. The opening of the NCAA tournament is actually far more engaging and far more entertaining than the end. I think if you went to an expanded playoff like this, the 28, the opening 12 games, and then the following 8 games, those 20 games would actually be more entertaining than the end result of the scenario. Now, the viewership grows massively in the NFL for the playoffs. We didn't see that in college football. And so one of the things that I think is an intriguing question to kind of sit around and debate out there is, why was that? Why is the college football playoff not growing in audience over the length of the playoff like we see happen in the NFL, like we see happen in the NBA, like we see happen in Major League Baseball. Basically, the audience was stationary, not much different from the start of the playoff till the end. It suggests to me that we've kind of hit the ceiling on college football audience, and that unlike the NBA and the NFL and frankly even the NHL and Major League Baseball, where by the time you get to the title series, there's way more interest, they haven't seen that yet in college football. So that's my take on 28. I'm a little bit skeptical that there's going to be an agreed-upon playoff format change, frankly, for the college football season by December 1. That's my take. I could be wrong, so we'll see exactly how that shakes out. I want to play this. I am, you guys all know, whatever you want to say about me, a diehard sports fan, for better or worse. There are some sports that I don't know very much about. Hockey. Most sports, though, basketball, football, baseball, particularly when it was from my youth, I know pretty well. I saw this clip on Saturday. It has gone mega viral. I believe this woman's name is Monica McNutt. Is she a former WNBA player? I know nothing about her, candidly. And I don't watch much sports on television other than actual sports because in the morning I'm prepping for my 3-hour radio show. So by and large, I'm not sitting around watching, for instance, First Take or any sports television show. I believe she is a former WNBA player, I think, or a college player or something. I don't even know who this chick is. She's hosting First Take. They have some internet influencer on. I don't really know him. I've seen him kind of bouncing around. I know he's kind of a comedian. And he's wearing a Barry Sanders Detroit Lions jersey. And in case you were confused about what that jersey was, he's actually wearing it backwards, meaning you see the name Sanders, you see the blue Lions jersey, you see the 20, okay? I showed this to my 10-year-old, my 14-year-old, and my 17-year-old because I was even being generous, and I was thinking maybe, possibly, this is just generational. Maybe people out there who are substantially younger than me, and I don't even know this chick is substantially younger than me. My guess is she's probably 35, 38, something like that. So she's not that much younger than me. But my guess was maybe it's just generational, and she doesn't have any recollection of Barry Sanders. No, all my kids knew immediately, and they never were born when Barry Sanders was playing. Oh, that's a Barry Sanders jersey, Dad. Proud parenting moment there. If you don't recognize a Barry Sanders jersey, you shouldn't be hosting a segment on sports television. I'm sorry. You just don't have the requisite sports knowledge to be hosting. And you can't fake it. You guys know this. If somebody fakes being a genuine sports fan, you find them out pretty quick because they can't talk about games. They can't talk about athletes. You know how this goes. But let me play the audio. But this was the still shot of what it looked like. This host had absolutely no idea who in the world Barry Sanders was. And she actually thought this was a Shedeur Sanders jersey, which also would make no sense because Shedeur Sanders played for Colorado, which is a dark black jersey, as everyone who is a college football fan knows, or a white jersey. The Colorado Buffaloes have a pretty recognizable color scheme. And the Cleveland Browns, who Shedeur Sanders plays for now, have a dark brown and orange color combo, as anybody who has ever watched the NFL very much would know. So this has nothing to do with Shedeur Sanders. She doesn't even have anything to do with Deion Sanders. Everybody who is a decent sports fan recognizes that as a Barry Sanders jersey. Listen to the audio on this.
Good morning. Good morning. How you doing?
Feeling good, man. Excited. Flew here for this. I'm up. I didn't know I was doing this as early. I'm up, though. Jeez.
Well, it's a blast for us to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us. All right, so the jersey. Let's get into it because obviously this ties to one Shador Sanders who balled out in his first preseason game. I'm sorry, I apologize. Barry Sanders.
Okay, we played that audio. Is that over now? Sorry, I'm looking down. I'm looking up Monica McNutt. She played college basketball at Georgetown, did not play in the WNBA, and she is 35 years old. So born in the D.C. area, played at Georgetown. To me, this is a baseline level of sports knowledge that you don't actually reach. This reminds me, Buck has told this story on the air before. He interviewed for NBC Sports for a media job when he was an undergrad. And part of the NBC Sports interview was they asked him what the ideal World Series would be. And he said, Yankees-Red Sox. And they were like, well, they're both American League teams. And he said, yeah, I didn't get the job. He's not a sports fan. This is the equivalent to me of predicting or projecting a Yankees-Red Sox World Series. You just don't know enough. It would be like me saying, you know what I'd love to see? A Super Bowl between the Detroit Lions and Green Bay Packers. And you said, well, they're actually in the same division, Clay, and they're both in the NFC. It's like, oh, my bad. I meant the Ravens and Bills. That would be a great Super Bowl. And he said, well, actually, sorry, they're both on the AFC side, right? There's a certain level of conversation that just demonstrates, are you or are you not a sports fan? And to me, that was embarrassing. Now, Bobby Barack wrote and said, this is what happens when you have a DEI hire. I don't know that I buy that just because I don't know enough about her outside of that particular clip. Maybe she's really good on women's basketball, and they should just not have her talk about anything else. There are some people who know everything about one sport and almost nothing about anything else. And so you're an expert on one particular area, but you expose yourself when you get outside of that area. Maybe that's the answer for her. So I don't know enough about her work product, but it's a big, embarrassing moment for ESPN. Like Stephen A. Smith tried to clean up that mess, but that's a huge embarrassment for ESPN. And it just exposed her pretty badly. And look, people are going to say, well, Stephen A. messes up stuff all the time. You mess up stuff all the time. Yeah. It's not basic stuff. It's not knowing who the quarterback is of the Pittsburgh Steelers right now, or not knowing, like I said, whether you're in the AFC or the NFC, or whether you can meet in the NBA Finals or not. There's a certain level of just basic sports knowledge that you should have to have a highly competitive job on television. My opinion. I wanted to play this. I've asked for this a couple of different times, and I've mentioned it a couple of different times. I have no idea if Cam Ward is going to be a success as the number one overall quarterback drafted in the class of 2025. I've watched every throw that he's had in the preseason so far. Again, I'm not going to be the guy who's going to try to predict what's going to happen based on preseason football, because I saw Marcus Mariota throw 5 touchdown passes. And I saw Will Levis throw 4 touchdown passes for the Tennessee Titans, both in the first ever game they played. I saw Jake Locker have some really good games. So, again, consistency matters. Do you continue to get better? But here is Cam Ward, and will you tag me on this clip, somebody, so that I can share this video without even it being my take on things? Cam Ward asked about getting to the facility at 5 a.m. before dawn every morning to work. Listen to this.
I'm just a big person on work. Like I said yesterday, I've grown up, watched my dad wake up at 4:30 doing a job he didn't like. So, if I can't wake up early and do what I need to do for a job I do like, I shouldn't be playing football. And that goes for everybody in the locker room. If you can't have the expectation for yourself that you want to be with a good or a great player and want to put the work in, I just think that's how it should go. I just think good things only come to those who work.
Love it. Love everything about that. Credit to him. Let's roll over, by the way, because there's a lot of stories out there. Let's roll over my New York Times editorial take team, if you would. Let's roll over Superman. I'll talk about that tomorrow. Let's roll over Kaepernick, getting scrapped by ESPN. I'll give you deeper dives on those stories tomorrow. That's a little bit of a preview. Can we pull up the Prize Picks ad read right here for me, please? And I'll also do the PBR where I went this weekend. And I'll talk about the Redskins tomorrow, but I want to give you my take on Ukraine and Trump based on where things are right now. And then we'll roll in a lot of other things tomorrow. Prize Picks, bringing you this episode. Preseason football's here. College football starts this weekend over in Ireland. You don't want to miss any of the action. You want to get hooked up right now with Prize Picks. You can make incredible amounts of picks on a huge variety of different topics. You can play in 40 states, including California, Texas, Georgia, Florida. If you're feeling left out, Prize Picks has action for you. You play $5 right now, and you get back $50. You can pick 2 to 6, more or less. It's very simple. We're going to give you picks. I think we lost week 1 by 4 yards, which was a joke because we had a big drop pass for Cam Ward that would have put us way over 25 or 30 yards over the total. I'll give you another pick later this week, but you can get hooked up right now. Go to prizepicks.com. Use code OutKick. $5 turns into $50. Code OutKick. $50 when you play $5. Prize Picks, run your game. Okay, I want to pull up. Do we have the PBR? I've now done basically every sport on the planet. Thanks to the Professional Bull Riders for hosting me on Friday. This was on Fox Nation. Is this a video or a still shot? I'm not sure. There is me with elite level professional bull riding analysis. For those of you who don't know, the key to bull riding is you can't fall off the bull. And I know some of you out there, you're not as well versed in bull riding. You're not an expert like me. That is, in fact, the key. Thanks to the PBR for having me. And I had a lot of fun at Nashville's Bridgestone Arena on Friday for day 1 of the PBR Challenge and championships there. Okay, I want to hit this. Right now, we have a ton of European leaders: Italy, France, England, Germany, Finland, among others, the head of NATO, all of these different individuals. I think the head of the EU, they're all in the White House right now, and they are all discussing the Zelensky decision and the wake of the meeting in Anchorage with Putin. Here is the essence of this situation, I think. Trump is acting as, and you can run any of the B-roll in the background if we've got video of this while I'm talking. Trump is acting effectively as a mediator. For anybody out there that has ever been involved in a legal dispute, one of the things that happens is a mediator comes in, and here you can see Trump shaking hands with Zelensky, who was dressed a little bit better. A mediator comes in, and he hears the side of the one side of the grieving parties or aggressive parties, feuding parties, the grievance. And he hears one side, then he hears the other. And he tries to find a middle ground that is going to make both sides a little bit unhappy, but is going to lead to a resolution of the situation. To me, here is the situation that is at play. The thing that Russia wants most is territory. And Ukraine still controls about 80% of its country. I don't see any solution to this war that is going to occur that does not involve Ukraine giving up decent amounts of territory to Russia. That's going to happen, as I've said for a long time. Where you draw the squiggly line is the question. And an easy line to draw is roughly where the battle lines are right now. That's a rough idea, okay? What is Ukraine? That's what Russia wants. Russia wants territory. They want as much of Ukraine, which they believe is actually their land, as they can possibly get. Okay. What does Ukraine want? Security guarantees. So you have two different desires here. Russia wants land. Ukraine wants a security guarantee. To me, the easiest historical analogy to point to here is Korea. Korea, we still have never had official peace in Korea. We have a demilitarized zone, North Korea, South Korea, and there are lots of American troops still left in South Korea as a result. To me, the solution here is some form of security guarantee being provided potentially by the United States, and Russia gets some part of Ukraine that they have seized. Now, what does that look like from a security guarantee perspective? The United States already has agreed to a mineral rights deal, which gives us some form of ownership, some form of contracted agreement where we would have a stake in the Ukrainian asset of mineral rights. And if somebody tried to take that away, we would defend that, okay? To me, what an agreement looks like is something like Korea. Because what Ukraine is concerned about is that Putin maybe he waits out Trump till we get another weak president like Biden, and then he invades again. That's what Zelensky is concerned about. We've already had an ongoing war here, and now you end up in a situation where Russia is willing to wait it out, and then they come again and they try to take a proverbial another bite of the apple. So what Russia has to be dissuaded by is a line that they cannot cross. And the only way that Ukraine feels like that's going to happen is if they get some form of security guarantee. NATO would be a security guarantee. It feels like this is a little bit of a backdoor NATO. And so I think what a solution could look like is a demilitarized zone where there are mines everywhere. Both sides know they're not allowed to enter into. And then you have a line where each side has got substantial, basically, trench warfare, and it's almost impossible to get past. Front lines occupied by Ukrainian soldiers. Maybe you get a secondary line of European soldiers, and then maybe you get a third line of American troops that are designed to protect the mineral rights agreement. And if Russia were to invade, Ukraine is there to stand up against them, but there could be immediate resources from the Europeans. Now, Putin's not going to like that, just like Zelensky is not going to like giving up land. But I think that's the ultimate wrangling that has to occur in order to get a negotiated settlement, a ceasefire, and an end to a war that has taken hundreds of thousands of lives. All right, we'll break down. Remember to roll over New York Times editorial, which was extraordinary on Sunday. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about MSNBC renaming itself, and we'll talk about Superman and Kaepernick, among other stories, tomorrow. Love all of you. DBAP unless you need to SBAP. I am Clay Travis. This has been OutKick, the show.